So on that lines, the quickest way that people don't think about right now, you put out you put out a boundary survey. You and Alex have y'all little company, and y'all put out some boundary surveys. You put it out in 2025. Now in 2028, some corner markers have been removed, or something about that those property boundary lines have come into play. Legal descriptions have changed. Something that you could not have even known. Guess what's now erroneous? The stuff you put out. Guess who's still liable for what you put out? You. So if you didn't go back and update that, and you still got that out as the public, what's to stop Joe Blow citizen from getting this and saying that you have totally misconstrued their property lines and infringed on their rights? Nothing. And you could explain all day long, man, I did this 5 years ago, and that wasn't like that 5 years ago. You left it out there, you put it out there, and you signed your name on it saying that it was viable data. It's not viable data. Now it's not viable, not because of anything that you did, just because of external factors that you can't control. So yeah, be mindful of what you put out to the public. We are in a suing culture. We are in the we know our rights type of platform. And if something that you've put out and called the gospel interferes with something that somebody wants to do, like argue with their neighbor over their fence line, something as arbitrary as that, and you didn't see it coming, yeah, that's a major issue with ArcGIS Online, because y'all published something on ArcGIS Online, you probably gonna forgot what it was by now. A couple of weeks gonna went by, you don't even remember what it was, but it's still out there, and it's still out there to be seen. And if you published it publicly and just forgot about it, it's out there. It's out there for anybody to use for any reasons, and you are the noted author of it. So a lot of people have fallen fate to that, publishing things publicly on ArcGIS Online, because unfortunately they're bad actors in a lot of different plays. So just be careful of that. And that's a good point, Alex. I'm glad you brought that up. So we're all here. We have we have our fields and everything. Any questions about how that works? Everybody feels good about adding a new data set, why they would add a data set, adding a feature class to that data set, and how you can add fields to that while you're doing it. And what's the other way you can do it that the book doesn't talk about? I'm pointing to it on the importing. Yes, I want you to work smarter, not harder. If we were going to create a the west side sidewalks and north side sidewalks, then what should you do? You should import from the second one that you made, import the same fields for the first one. Because the only thing different about this feature class is that one's going to be north side and one's going to be west side. But the attributes or the fields are going to be the same. So why would you sit and do that repeatedly like that? Don't.
You can cut down error that way too.
Exactly, because especially with these underscores and stuff, it's easy to fat finger and forget to add an underscore. Did I do underscore? Did I do camel case? Now your stuff isn't matching. Great point. So we did all that, and we've talked about the purpose of a feature data set. So now they're going to introduce coded value domains. So a domain is basically that safeguard that says I've made this field. So we made our field length, right? But we don't want them we know that there's no sidewalks that's pretty much over 200 feet. I'm just made that up. So wouldn't that make that data wrong if somebody just fat fingered 205? We know that can't be right. So what a coded domain does is I can put a coded domain that says this field can only be from 1 to 200. Or if I have a sidewalk can only be made of certain materials, right? A sidewalk is not going to be made of aluminum. So if I had a material type and somebody put aluminum in my field, they're going to mess my data up because you're trying to be funny, or maybe that's what you thought, or whatever. You was copying something, whatever. Now I have this one sidewalk that's going down the street here that you said is aluminum. Now I have to go figure that out. Why you did that? Is that right? What actually is it? My data's messed up. So that coded domain will say, give you that drop down and say you only can select concrete, asphalt, blah, blah, blah. It can only be these values. You can't just arbitrarily type something in. I know that it can only be that. And in survey, you know, when we do surveying and data in GIS, there's a lot of that because a road is only going to be made of certain materials, right? There are no streets paved with gold. We would love for that, but that's not actuality as of yet in our life journey. So we don't want anything put like that for our materials, because that's gonna mess everything up. Property can only be commercial or residential or agriculture or whatever. We don't want to put Michael Jackson Funhouse, you know, in here just to be funny. That's what it's used for. You know, we don't want to make that stuff up. So that's why you use coded domains, and that furthers the thought process is that we're gonna do analysis on this data later on down the line. Garbage in, garbage out. If you do analysis on stuff that has all this just garbage put in just from all these different data editors that didn't take this seriously and just put in anything like, I'm gonna just write in that I want Roseanne Barr to be president, you know, then your analysis is gonna be screwed, and that's the point of this. We want to have good analysis, so we're gonna do a coded domain. So we're already in our nice little map project. So understand that a domain is not at a feature class level, it's at the database level. Why y'all think so?
Because it restricts the data.
That's why you do it, but why do you think we don't do it at why we're not right clicking the feature class? Because it's gonna work with the feature class, but why do we make it at the geodatabase level? Throw your lifeline. That same thing that I just said about the north side sidewalks and west side sidewalks, right? So both of them are going to be in the same geodatabase. So if I make a domain for materials that has concrete, asphalt, what's another material, Alex, real quick? Now that I asked you. Dirt, yeah. So if I make a domain that has those three material types for my sidewalks, don't those pertain to the sidewalks on the north side and the west side? Not just one? So if I made it at the feature class level, then I would have to make it for every sidewalks feature class. So what if I have 10 different feature classes for different sidewalks all over the county? I have to do that 10 different times. If I make it at the geodatabase level, then all I have to do is say every one of my sidewalks is going to use that same domain because it's the same values. That makes sense? So that's why we're gonna do it up here so that everything that follows under it can use it. And then we only do it once instead of all these separate times. We work smarter, not harder. So we're gonna right click, we're gonna do domains at the geodatabase level. So everybody see that? Where domains come up. I hate that it does this too.
Is it right there above the
Yeah,
paper?
man, yeah. It's those two dialogues that come up mess me up. So we have our domains. Everything opens in a nice little panel. So long story short, we're gonna make this domain pavement type.
And so when you're indexing this, is it case sensitive?
When you're indexing
Like
it,
when you're searching and like doing like work, is it case sensitive?
no.
That's just for like your own like visual stuff.
So let me work with you. Pavement underscore type for the domain name. TYP, I believe it was. And it says list of different possible pavement types. As a description, you always want to put a description. Notice that it doesn't make you. And notice that it has a type. So remember I said sometimes you only want things to be between 1 and 200, and then sometimes we talking about that pavement type, only asphalt, concrete, and dirt. You can select that. So I didn't want y'all to just think that all of them come up as text. You do have a drop down there. This one just happens to be text. Now it doesn't go into what the split and merge policy is, but just for reference, and usually I would say 7 times out of 10, it's always gonna say default. But what it means by merge and split, because this is a line feature class, right? Can you split a line? Yeah. Can you merge 2 lines together? Yeah. So basically you're telling it, what do I want you to do with this domain if I make a sidewalk and I use this domain and I say this sidewalk is made of concrete, but now I've split it and now it's 2 sidewalks instead of 1. Do you still want me to say that it's concrete, or do you want me to change it? So when you say default, you're saying if I split it, keep them both as concrete. And it's the same thing the other way around. If I had 2 sidewalks, but for some reason they were 2 separate lines, and now I know that it's all the same sidewalk and I merged it together, are they all still concrete? Or if one was actually concrete and one was asphalt, which one do you want me to use? And usually default means the first feature that you touched will take precedence. So, and usually that's pretty much the majority of what happens. I'm going to join these together, and now both of these are concrete. Even if the second one said asphalt, make it concrete now, because if I joined it to a concrete sidewalk, obviously it's concrete too, for the most part, logically thinking. So, but most of the time it didn't explain that, but that is a thing, especially like if you get into cabling, like when I used to do work for Comcast, and is this fiber cable? If I cut this, are both of these cables still fiber, or is one coax? If I joined them, are they now both coax, or is still one fiber? So those type of things do come into play sometimes, just to give you some real world examples. I had to be up on that. So everybody got what we're doing? Like we've made a pavement type, and we're gonna say it's a coded value. So basically I want to say that in this field, whatever I use for this field, you can only put in these values. So now let's go back and see what values they want us to put in. So concrete, asphalt, gravel. I couldn't think of gravel for nothing.
I was thinking something. I was gonna say limestone, but.
So we're gonna add those in. And it doesn't show really well where to add them in, but they're over here, just chilling over on the side over here. And it's ASPH. And it's GRAV. Oops. Dirt and unknown. So now, wherever I apply this domain, they can only put in those values. And just be careful as you get down to unknown and you kind of keep clicking or tabbing, it'll make another row and it'll show up red. Click out of it and then just delete that row, because it's just pretty finicky. So when you got them all in there, what you need to do? Starts with an S and end with an E. Save. And how did I tell y'all? Y'all know whether it's saved or not?
It'll say, it'll be red.
That little asterisk right up here. Now the save button will disable once you've saved it, but sometimes it's just so blaring that you miss it. But if you ever see this little asterisk right here, that means you didn't save it. And that's pretty much for any of the dialogues, whether you're making fields or subtypes or domains. If you see that little asterisk on the tab, that means that